I've never seen a diamond in the flesh. I cut my teeth on wedding rings in the movies, and I'm not proud of my address.
We're not just building muscle, we're building men. In the quiet hours, in the unfiltered moments, in the conversations that happen before the world wakes up. This is The Gloom, where brotherhood forms in the dark so we can lead in the light, where vulnerability is strength and leadership is handed from man to man, one story at a time. Our mission is to empower, exhort, and inspire men to achieve their best selves through stories of reinvigorated male community leadership. We bring you weekly interviews with F3 Omaha PACs, ordinary men doing extraordinary things in fitness, fellowship, faith, and leadership, because we believe that every man has a story, and reinvigoration starts when that story is shared. This is The Glue in the Gloom. Shout out to our sponsors, Exclusively Eye Care, Major Team Mortgage, Liberty Core Real Estate, Avior Wealth Management, and Omaha Laser Dentistry. We appreciate their support. Liberty Core Real Estate is your homegrown real estate broker. If you're looking to buy or sell real estate, whether personal or investment, Armando, aka Brian, and Megan Michaels' company is ready to serve you. With Command Center in Old Town Elkhorn and agents all throughout the metro, they are more than ready to guide and serve you in your next real estate endeavor. Whether your next move needs to happen now or in 5 years, call or text Armando at 402-770-2165 to get your questions answered. And a special offer for F3 Nation PACs members, Liberty Core will donate $250 to your sponsor of choosing for every closed transaction. Stop looking, start finding today with Liberty Core Real Estate. Now let's get back to the gloom.
All right, and we're live from the Nomad. This is becoming more of a regular spot, which we really like down here in Old Town Elkhorn. Shout out to Liberty Core Real Estate, one of our sponsors, and our man Armando. But this is a really special episode. I'm excited we get to do this. We're just kind of talking before this, and the biggest question that our guest today has is what he should do with his hands. But we will, we'll make sure that for those of you listening, you won't get it. So you have to flip over to YouTube and give it a watch. But I got our man Speed Bump on. And I think I would just say, man, this is a guy that came into the group and just, I feel like, just hit the ground running. And from a personal note, I've just really appreciated all of the parenting advice. So he's another guy with 3 daughters. So that is meaningful to me. And then also just the way you've leaned in on the third F. I think all the book studies and stuff has been really cool. And not to mention helping us launch into Valley, which is probably the next Bennington, and that brings me to our other guest, sort of another co-host that I've got on with me, my man Stripes. And if you haven't listened to his episode, you got to go check it out. But Stripes is going to help me make sure we keep Bump honest and ask some good questions here. But so take us to the start, EH journey, who EH'd you, and then tell us about that first workout. And how'd you get the name Speed Bump? I don't think I know that.
I think you've heard it before, but we'll go down that path. I think I shared with both of you guys the first beat down Twitter Nemo.
Yeah,
that was a pretty sad clown that day for sure. So the EH story goes back probably even some guys in F3 that I knew. Talking like Sparty. Well, Sparty, I've known Sparty for a while. His brother Squints, or I call him OG Squints, Jeff Wellwood, was doing this F3 thing. So I was familiar with it a little bit just through exposure with him. And then Big One and I also played baseball together. So had some familiarity with F3 from that. Cheap Seats had kind of mentioned it a few different times. Our daughters were playing on the same softball team. In fact, Cheap Seats and I have coached softball together for 3 or 4 years. This year was the first year that we didn't do it together. So had a few guys that were pushing on me to join this F3 thing. And I think like most guys, I was like, oh, I need to get in shape first before I'm going to try that.
Yeah.
And for me, the guy who actually gets the official EH was Bovine. Bovine and I worked together, and I was at a point in my life where I needed to do something different with my physical activity for sure. So back in February of 23, I had committed to doing a 45-minute walk for 45 days. A bunch of people had seen online or had seen communication from people that were starting that journey January 1. Well, I said, well, I'm going to start February 1. I gave myself a little grace and started in February. And Bovine and I worked together and have a little group chat that we had communicated with some former coworkers, typically around gambling and stuff. Things that don't need to be doing. But he's like, hey, you should come check this thing out. And finally, I was just like, you know what,
If Bovine can do it, I can do it.
That's right. Exactly. So I showed up to the Oracle, 7 a.m. Oracle on a Saturday morning. Schnitzel was on the queue. He did do the sausage wheel.
Sausage.
The famous. It's true. The famous sausage wheel. In fact, for my 1-year anniversary queue, I stole that queue from him and ran that thing back. But that first beatdown, man, I remember it was tough. Kind of going into how I got my name early on in the beatdown. We were doing warm-a-rama on the parking lot just on the north side of the Boys Town football field.
Mm-hmm.
And we were the only ones in there. I think there's about 15 or 17 of us, and someone pulls in their I remember it was like gold Lexus, kind of an older car, and there's no one in the parking lot, and they miss kind of the stall that they're intending to go into, and they proceed to back up and almost run me over. I had no idea. I think Tater was there that morning. I kind of knew Tater just from playing baseball. He's a year behind me. Him and Big One were in the same class, so went to prep, and Tater was at West Side, so we had a little rivalry there and just knew each other from that. And so we were talking and stuff, and he always says at that point my name was already given to me. When I got to the Name-A-Rama, I worked in transportation, so I always thought it had something to do with my transportation experience. But Tater always reminds me that I was named before we even got to Name-A-Rama. So on that first workout, I mean, honestly, the one thing that I'll forever remember is khakis. We ended up getting over to the Heartbreak Hill. I didn't feel like I was in terrible shape, but I was pushing 260 at that point. Definitely was not in great shape. Did the workout and khakis. I mean, I'm telling you, that guy literally carried me back to the flags that morning, and just his welcoming, just the way that khakis welcomes you into the group was just incredible for me. So just had a really good experience that first day, and I would say I was definitely hooked right away. I didn't, some of those guys I didn't mention to them that I was going to go to the first F3 workout. So Bovine was the only one that was in on it. Thought maybe Big One would be there. I didn't know how often he posted. Little did I know that Sparty's brother Squints, he and I have only posted together one time. It actually ended up being that first full week of my F3 journey. He posted with me on a Friday with Sparty coming back from an injury. So he doesn't come out very much anymore, but I definitely get to see Big One quite a bit. There's another buddy of ours that we're kind of connected with through baseball. We got a little high school baseball chat. Ascot was doing it. So I was wondering, like, who's all going to be there. And the guys that stood out to me, though, were Tater that morning. I remember saw Cheap Seats. I called him Cobe. So this morning he's like, who's Cobe? So he's like looking at me like, who is this guy? He's like, Navani, you're showing up. So he was pretty excited. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's kind of the early journey in that first beat down.
Yeah. It's like the guy who showed up at Wolf Den Monday, and he's like, well, Chad Bruff, told me about this, and we all just were like, who? Who's Chad Bruff? I love it. So first workout was at Oracle. You got all these guys that have kind of been telling you about it. You kind of felt like you had to get in shape first. Like, how did you feel after that? Were you just gassed? Were you like, I think I got this? Or like from that physical fitness standpoint, what that first workout?
I definitely thought it was tough. I wouldn't say I was like totally gassed, but it definitely pushed me, more than I need to push. Like that workout was definitely tough for me, and not something that I could repeat regularly. I definitely, as I recall, I started getting into a rhythm as far as days of the week that I would post. I ended up I remember that first week. So I posted on that Saturday. Bovine was the queue at Octagon on a Monday. I went to his queue, got to see Tater and Khakis again, and got to experience Khakis Cafe. And like I've said this in COTs, if everybody got my experience at least to join F3, I feel like every single one of them would come back because I was so welcomed by, I remember, Cheap Seats was there, Tater was there, Wait Time was there. I started that first day with Sweat Lodge, who's now the Oracle site queue. And then Khakis, just that experience with those guys. And then that Monday was just an awesome experience and got to see, like Bovine leading the workout and didn't really have an idea of kind of what was going on then. But, and then Tuesday, Roadhouse and I went to grade school together. He's a year ahead of me. So I got to reconnect with the Roadhouse, which is always a great experience. We're both Pius Panther boys, and then went to prep as well. He's a year ahead of me. So saw him on Tuesday, I think, there at Trident. And so I was in a rhythm of Monday, Tuesday posting, and then Friday, Saturday initially. That was about all I could handle. Definitely was not considering any pre-running. You heard a little bit about these Murph things, and I was like totally scared of that. There was no way I was even going to give that a shot initially. But initially, I was kind of a Monday, Tuesday. Usually, I feel like it was Coronado, and then Trident on Monday and Tuesdays, and then Friday and Saturday felt like Armory, and then Oracle kind of were my rhythm initially. And I don't know, that was kind of the experience. It took me, I always tell guys I couldn't run an eighth of a mile when I first started F3, and I definitely was not a runner by any means. And I remember the first pre-run I ever did, we just did a 2-mile run. It was Cheap Seats and I at Armory. We basically ran from the flags out behind the football field and then back. And I stopped probably, and that's only a 2-mile run. Didn't even get to the hills or to do the hard stuff. I bet I stopped 4 or 5 times. And honestly, I give a lot of credit to my running now. I feel like I am a runner now for sure. For that site, and shout out to Tea Party. Tea Party kind of got me started with that tank trot, and I'm telling you, if any of you guys are out there wanting to start getting that running journey going, Tea Party, lock your field with that dude. He'll get you going. He challenged me to do my first half marathon in October of that year, and I did it. And after that, I remember, I think I did a year's worth, or about 14 months worth of half marathons. I did one a month for 14 months, and man, I definitely enjoy running for different reasons now. I feel like the mumble chatter in the morning is like part of the reason I get up at this point. You don't get to connect as much during the beatdowns, I'd say right now, but man, oh man, how fun is it to do a pre-run on one of those long pre-runs? You get you and I have experienced a few halves just on our own. So we start early in the morning at Catalyst or the Ocho there at Badger Point, or
best idea to start with a pre-run. Or
Seven to Heaven out at Beacon, one of those places. And just the conversations on those things are, I feel like.
Yeah. You mentioned that you sent us the text with that first Namo and going down the memory lane a little bit. And then I saw too that Sweat Lodge was on there, and both of you guys have had a massive transformation from a physical standpoint. If you look at that, like a lot of guys do. But what I was just most glad about is that I haven't seen you break out that green hideous hoodie sweatshirt that you were wearing that day. You looked like just you were a sad clown, especially in that thing. I'd be like, who is this guy and what? But one thing that you also mentioned that I admire a lot about you is that you felt welcome so much, but I think that you have like this really keen ability to connect with people. And I don't think that it was, you mentioned some of the guys that you knew beforehand, but I'll bet you probably crossed paths with a lot of guys that you didn't even know did F3. But I feel like you know everybody. And not only, from previous relationships, but you also really get out there and make those relationships. And I think that's one thing that I admire most about you. And I've tried to emulate a little bit. What is it that you like most about that, about just connecting with guys, and why are you so good at it?
Yeah. Give us the sequel.
Well, I would say when you I've lived in Valley now for 10 years. When you live in Valley, you don't have an option to post super close to home. So you the option is you move around. So that allowed me to connect with a lot of guys at different sites, and be able to connect with guys that maybe I had connections with before. You know, there are a ton of guys in F3 that I feel like I had some sort of connection with somehow. You know, but because of where I live, with no, you know, ton of sites being super close. Now obviously we got 2 sites in Valley, so that's awesome. But it gave me the opportunity to connect with those guys, and you know, I don't know what the secret sauce is for being able to connect with people. Sometimes I just like to hear just a little bit about their story, or what interests them. Everybody's got a little bit something new that they'll tell you, and as you dig in with these guys a little bit, they're gonna open up even a little bit more. And I don't know, enjoy the camaraderie. You know, I was talking about kind of the group chat that I had with my high school baseball buddies. This group of guys in F3 are kind of like that. People have related to the movie Sandlot, like it's a big recess, right? And so, just that camaraderie of being kind of on that same team is you know, allows me to connect with every one of these guys, because I feel like none of these guys judge you, man. They are willing to meet you where you're at, and I love it. I don't know if that answers your question, but
I mean, partially. I still didn't hear the secret, but maybe we'll get to that as we're going. So you mentioned you were 260 when you started.
Sir.
What are you at now? What's been that like physical journey? Are you?
Well, so right now I got on the scale this
really
morning.
ripped, like 190.
I'm at 212.
Okay.
My low water mark's been 204, so I shortly did 75 hard this year, and that kind of was my low spot. I feel that's like right now 210 seems like about the sweet spot.
Well, you're 6'3"?
Yeah, 6'2".
6'2", okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. To me, just, you know, the guys in the group, naturally you're going to push yourself. I've done a lot of things that I never thought I would do in my life. Like the fact that I ran 1 half marathon, you know, seemed reasonable, and then you start stacking them together, and it's like there's somebody out there that will join you in whatever challenge that you want to do, right? The half marathons, you maybe 2 or 3 down. I remember, you know, speaking of Sparty, he ran one with me, or I actually feel like I ran with him New Year's Day, and I didn't even have planned that one. I kind of had my January one planned later, and he's like, "Hey, do you want to run a half tomorrow morning?" And I was like, you know, that sounds awesome. That sounds like the way to start that day. The hardest one that I did was definitely at your house, Plague.
Last fall,
September. That was a grind. So of all the ones that I did, that one is the one that hurt the most for sure.
It's hot, hilly. We're gonna do it again this year, but different route. So
nice.
What talk me through, like, what's your sweet spot? Like, because I feel like you still don't really like the Murph, right?
No.
Like, you'll do one. I don't know. Are you a coupon guy? Like, do you?
Yeah, I do actually. The coupons don't bother me at all. In fact, we've talked since we started this, Shield Doc officially here in the last month or two about maybe tying in some more weightlifting together, and I love that idea.
Yeah.
I don't do a ton of weightlifting. If I backed up and started kind of talking about my fitness journey, I belong to a lot of gyms that I didn't go to. So,
what was your favorite?
Well, I think they were all my favorite because I paid for them and didn't use them.
Right.
And I got a ton of equipment at home that didn't get used either. But I think for me, naturally just by showing up, you get yourself in shape, and I'll do about anything. I do remember in that first year I did do the Murph challenge and felt like it about killed me.
Yeah.
Did have some back problems after that. I'm not the strongest guy in the world, so if I'm doing the pull-ups, I'm definitely doing assisted. All the other stuff that's involved, I can handle it. But I like a little bit of the mix, so I think I do like coupon beatdowns. I don't know that I go to them a ton, and it's probably not one of them that I target a ton. But if coupons are involved, I got no problem with it.
What is it that just you feel like that you never say no? Because I feel like you never back down to anything. He'll come up with crazy ideas in our group text, and I'm the one that's like, hell no, we're not doing that, you guys. This is stupid. And then next thing you know, they go, I'm in, and then I'm like, fine. But so like, is it like that competitiveness from being an athlete, or like, what do you think it is? Is it FOMO, or what is it that like makes you never say no to anything, no matter how crazy it is?
I mean,
This is an intervention, buddy.
I was gonna say, things that we do in the morning, like none of that seems so hard that I couldn't handle, right? Like I like to be able to push myself. There's mornings that you're getting up. We're setting our alarms a lot of times before 4 o'clock in the morning to execute some of these wild plans that we have. And I think for me, so many guys have been there for me as I've been on this journey that if I can go show up for one guy, or for, we just had a flag pass today for 70 guys, I'm going to do it, and I totally respect the guys that their body knows that it's too much. I've had a few injuries and I have backed off on some of the stuff. So, maybe that's what it's going to take. Like I've told you both, like if I ever get to a point where I injure myself, man, oh man, it would be definitely a hard thing for me to not be able to run for sure, to slow things down. And I realize the wear and tear that we're putting on our bodies, that maybe at some point, Stripes are dealing with back injuries right now. And so I feel bad when we're like, hey, you gonna be ready for that 5 miler in the morning or what? I feel like you get suckered in because I'm all in too sometimes. So
when you get to our age, you gotta sometimes listen to your body. He's got a few years to go.
I'm the youngest 40-year-old you ever met.
I feel like we pushed back on Blake Food again, don't we? But
we still always get in at the end.
I know.
So. This morning was the funniest part. Is Stripes is like, we're not going to run 7:30, and so we ran 7:15.
Yeah,
which is not 7.
Like, guys, when I said we're not running 7:30, I didn't mean faster than that.
Hey, love it. It kind of going off what Stripes was asking you, and just the fellowship piece, like. Yeah, and it was referenced this morning in the COT, and I just had to smile, right? Because they're talking about it was Pelini, right, trying to make this commitment of all these guys he's going to be like, and be being as outgoing or as welcoming as Speed Bump. I don't know if that's his exact words, but it was kind of what I took from it, and I think it's so true. I mean, the number of guys that I see you walking up to, checking in on, and even what I really notice that I love is Snares 2.0s. Largemouth, just like some of those kids that you're just like trying to keep them engaged. My question for you is how, like, at what point were you comfortable in the group to like start doing that, or was it from the start?
I don't know. I would say, I mean, you go back and look at that first Twitter Nemo. I definitely wasn't comfortable, And I've said this in COTs too before, like. When I first started in F3, I was not going to lead any workout. There's like no way. I'm not going to lead that workout. I'm here to show up to, like most guys, get in shape. And I think it's just the example that everyone else around me is set. I did today when Pelini mentioned that in the COT, I thought about it just for a moment. And what I thought about immediately was khakis. His welcoming to me is something that I feel like needs to be repaid. And if I can repay just one guy, that's, I'm trying to do my part. And, I love giving the little guys, a hard time. And there's a fine line there, but, those kids are awesome. So shout out OG Monkey and Chipmunk, Largemouth. You guys, you keep me young. So, I enjoy just, engaging with them and messing with them. But as far as the other packs, I feel like, what else you can do out there? Not talk to the guy next to you. There's maybe you'll find something new about somebody. Maybe you'll find that somebody's struggling with something. Maybe that gives somebody the opportunity to share something that's on their heart that helps their day go along. I don't know. It feels natural to me, I guess. And I'd feel like I generally kind of like to hear what guys are up to or what's going on.
Was there a point that you feel like that transformation or that mindset shifted from I'm just going to show up and be a guy that does the workout to, okay, I'm going to step in to be more active and step into a leadership role? Obviously, you do a VQ and that's the first step. But like, was there a moment that you can think of or a time frame that like, I'm going to take this to the next level and start to be a leader? Because I remember when you told me, and I don't know how far along it was, timeline goes, but when you told me that you guys were going to launch, expand into Valley, I was like, okay, good luck.
Yeah.
Who's in Valley that's going to want it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Bennington is what's going on right now, bro.
Yeah.
So, but like,
Were you trying to sabotage Valley?
No, I love these are situations where I love being wrong because I mean, it absolutely blew up, and I think that speaks to a little bit your character, that welcomeness, and the being a leader. But again, kind of back to the question: when did that mindset shift to just being a participant to being more of an active leader?
I don't know if there was a pinpoint moment where I could say that happened. I feel like it's instilled in, right? Guys ask you to lead. I would tell you, any of you guys out there that are side cues, if you ask me to cue, I'm going to cue for you. I might not give you the date that you want, but I will cue for you. It's just something that you feel invigorated. I don't know. You see the example that everyone else has given you, and you feel like, you know what, I'm totally capable of holding my candle, doing the part, doing my part. And so, I'll be honest, when we talked about launching Valley, I think a little bit of that was Plague. Plague's like, he's pushing me. He's like, hey, we're going to be the first guy to launch a Valley. And I maybe had a little bit of doubt too. I'm like, who's going to be out there? And, there was a few guys that I had known out in the neighborhood, and I was, started to bring them on board. And they were posting kind of in town. And then, I feel like, once we got things launched and it took off just a little bit, fire was lit. And I would say shout out to our guy, Reed, because he's got that thing going like crazy right now. And Hotwire too. A couple guys that were early on guys, maybe not. Hotwire is one of the first guys that I EH'd to join F3 from Valley. Him and I went to church together, and so he was a guy that was just all in right away. But it was pushing. It was getting pushed by Plague as far as the site queue opportunity, and just getting pushed by other queues that were asking me to queue. And at some point, you feel like you can do it, right? I had a leadership role in work. Just over, it'll be 2 years in January, and like I'd always been an individual contributor, and I feel like the growth that I had in F3 was a direct relationship to the work that I had, what was going on in my work.
That's super cool. It was my second prophetic,
the prophet,
but only in F3. It doesn't seem to be true in any other area. I just find the guy that's from a place we aren't yet and say, you're going to be the guy. And then magically happens. What's so cool is like the behind the scenes, just reflecting back, right? There were some conversations that we had about who's that up and coming leader, right? And planning the CSOP and, really, that was something that we really were like, yeah, let's pull speed bump into that. Right. And see how he does, and I think, you guys did a great job on that. One of the things so we hear a lot about male loneliness, right? And wait time. I think heard recently talking about like deaths of despair from guys just not having relationships. You feel like you had like some good, strong male friendships before F3, or what has F3 done to kind of transform that aspect of life?
I do feel like I had some good, strong, male relationships for sure. I don't know that they were at the depth level though that they've feel like they just went to a whole nother level. They exponentially got deeper. And I saw guys sharing themselves, and so in turn I feel like it allowed me to share somebody. I wouldn't be the first one to probably share kind of some of my inner beings, but if somebody else is sharing their story with me and being vulnerable, it allowed me to become more vulnerable in that circle, share myself. So I feel like I had some strong relationships, but definitely not to the depth that things have developed here with F3. And
any thoughts on what helped to deepen some of those? Just consistency, or anything you would maybe just thinking of it, sometimes a guy gets into F3 and they're sort of like, well, I'm going to the workouts, but I'm not quite feeling what I think everybody else is feeling. Anything you did intentionally that you maybe think impacted that?
I think I early on was definitely going to coffee all the time. So I think that helped start some of those relationships, because I feel like, while there isn't plenty of mumble chatter that goes on in a beatdown, for me, the mumble chatter happens at the pre-run.
Yeah.
any of that pre stuff or at college. Like that's where you actually can kind of catch up. During the beatdown, I'm weird. I still try to like make sure I'm following the rules. Like, Chucky's out there just, run his mouth the whole time. You got to remind him to be quiet, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm following what the cue is asking us to do. Chuck, I think you should do that too.
Yeah.
But there are times though, even this morning I got to kind of communicate with Sparty. Just his daughter is going to Marion. Our daughter's now, I've got a sophomore at Marion, and his daughter's a freshman, and just connect with him and kind of talk with him during the beatdown. And I've tried to remind myself that it's not about the workout. Like even during that beatdown, like you can get connected at that during that.
I love it.
Another thing that I wanted to touch on that I really, really admire about you, and then obviously we've gotten to know each other really well, and I know how important family is to you. And a couple of girl dads over here, obviously, and I know this week was a big week for you with Charlie going off to school. But I mean, even from a standpoint of like bringing your brother to F3 and then seeing him kind of accelerate. Now he's got a flag, and kind of in a way kind of followed in your footsteps a little bit. I know I know you're keeping track of how many times they cued each other, and you're leading that battle. But he stepped in this year and did an awesome job with the anniversary, up at Buns and kind of the way that you did with the CSOP at Gretna East. And then I know obviously your dad has a huge impact on both of you guys. So kind of talk about that family aspect and just what that looks like and how that's had any type of impact, or how F3 has had an impact on that at all.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been super fun to watch my brother Chaw accelerate here in F3. Super busy. He's now officially full-time doctor at Children's. So he's got his hands full with the job, and then also has three young boys, but definitely see parallels with his F3 journey and mine. And just super awesome to see him take a flag at the spike. Super proud of him. He's 8 years younger than I am, so he's always, my M gives me a hard time because I still call him my little brother. He's my only brother biologically. And so she's like, he's not your little brother. He's growing an adult now and doing all the things. Family wise, I lost my dad 10 years ago, and the cancer. He'll be 10 years this October, and I feel like he was definitely a formative person and the men that we are, and probably the strong Catholic faith that we have. Our mother definitely maybe even leading the pack ahead of him as far as faith wise and being active in the church. She's a daily church goer and stuff like that. So I would say I definitely have a strong family dynamic. I've got 4 sisters. So I was the oldest of 6. There's a 19-year difference between myself and my youngest sibling.
Wow.
I attribute that to my mom coming from a large Catholic family. She was one of 15.
Wow.
And your sister's got one of your sisters and 8 kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they have 8. She homeschools. Yeah. In fact, I think they have the same van as Catholic. I think that's the only way to get having
right?
kids moved around.
For sure. I love it. Curious, because I know we've talked about this a little bit, but still on the family theme, like thinking about that concentrica, how has F3 maybe impacted like relationship with your M and with your 2.0?
Yeah, I mean, nothing but positive. I think my M does give me a hard time sometimes about, prioritizing F3. She's like, hey, you could probably take so-and-so to this thing or this thing in the morning on certain days. But she knows how important it is to me for sure. And she knows positive impact it has on the mental side. I mean, we've talked about this. Everyone's like, getting out in the morning and burning off some of that steam allows me to be a better father at home in the mornings. I even asked her, I was like, sometimes I ask some questions about the impact of F3 on relationships with your wife. And I asked her, I said, what would you say? And she said, well, you definitely don't roll your eyes at me as much as you used to. And so That's something I've always I've asked for the Lord's help with, is in some patience, a little bit of humility, and just sometimes maybe closing my mouth a little bit. We were talking about that this morning. Gripes. I feel like I talk a little too much, and be reminded that a quick response isn't always necessary. So I think F3 has been just tremendous for our relationship. In regards to the 2.0s, I think that has helped too. You know, I've tried to be a better dad from the standpoint of not overreacting, and reminding myself that you know, I was once young and that age, and my brain doesn't work like theirs, and so their thought process and the things that they're doing or decisions they're making, I don't think they're ever doing anything to try to disappoint me. And so for me to get excited about something that they didn't do that I think they should do my way, is I've got to, you know, refocus kind of that energy, and maybe some criticism, and give them some grace. So
Would you be comfortable sharing the infamous Diet Coke story, or how's that going? Are you getting more consistent bringing Diet Coke
I can't believe we bring it up. My mom's probably gonna watch this.
we can edit this out.
So yeah, the CO2 was just about getting Diet Cokes for my wife in the morning, and kind of her prioritization of thinking that well, I always say that she gets 2 to 3 a day, and that's kind of the priority for her, to make sure that I'm getting her a soda in the morning. And sometimes it wasn't a priority for me. And more recently, I definitely am calling her in the morning and just saying, "Hey, honey, you need your Diet Coke for the ride home." So I like to try to, you know, if I stick around for coffee, usually if I drink coffee, it's the stuff that's not good for you. So I try to limit that. But if I stick around for coffee and then I'm on the way home, I try to give her a shout out and just say, "Hey, do you need a coffee or a Diet Coke in the morning?" And I would say, you know, 9.5 out of 10 times, get her that Diet Coke.
I remember part of it was you were in a drive-through, kind of freaking out about, you know, Diet Coke or something, and your COT was really just encouraging guys, like, just do the little things, right? Like, don't get frustrated by that.
Yeah, my frustration is I get in those lines, and they, you know, it seems so simple to be able to order a Diet Coke and get through that line. It's got to be a McDonald's Diet Coke too, right? I get in those lines, and for whatever reason, they can't hear me, and they don't ever go as fast as I need them to do to get through those lines. And so I maybe have lost my cool with the Diet Coke process once or twice. So I try to relax when I'm doing that.
I love it. Sorry for bringing it up. I kind of was making me think. The other thing I would love, because part of this is, as guys are hearing your story, that they might just be able to learn, right? And I know Stripes mentioned this earlier, but your oldest just went to college. I'm terrified of that. But when I asked you how you were doing or how you were feeling, my biggest thing is, like, my daughter's going to go to college and she's going to party. And I just remember your response, just being one of like peace. Like, we feel like we've prepared her, but talk us through that. Like, how do we as fathers, like, any tips or things that we could maybe be doing to be better prepared? I know, you know, we won't be perfectly prepared, but
right. And I don't know that I'm always the best example, but I think showing them an example, you know, I think we were talking about it in one of our pre-runs where we're, you know, talking about her faith and kind of, you know, how she's wired. And, you know, thankfully I feel like she's pretty level-headed kid. And, you know, I try to go to church every Sunday and show that example for them. We go to Catholic Mass and they join us, I would say almost every Sunday, you know, but it's their option. My relationship with the Lord is mine, and I feel like my wife's is hers, but we do it together. So we're together in church, and the kids, I would say, you know, they're right behind us, are going with us pretty much every week. And what I kind of recall, and just the way I feel about it, is we've shown her as best example as we can, and I have to be at peace with kind of where she's at, and kind of feel like God's gonna bless her and give her the grace to make all the right decisions. And if she doesn't, we're there to help pick her up. You know, it was a tough drop off. Even a couple days before, you feel like you're totally prepared. You prepare as much as you can for that moment of goodbye and that hug. And it was definitely emotional. And we were even talking this morning. We're now 48 hours post dropping her off, and we're getting messages from her, and she just seems like she's enjoying herself like to no other. She's had some cool experiences already. They got best design dorm room for her floor or something. She's super excited about that with her dorm mate or roommate there, and is starting the rush process, and seems like she's really enjoying that. And all the while, my wife yesterday, she comes down around 3:30 or 4 o'clock after a little bit of work, and she's, still emotional, and the house doesn't feel right because she's not there, and it's going to be part of the new norm. But we really have a lot of confidence that she's going to do great, and we couldn't have set her up any better, at least we think, to be successful there. And so definitely at peace with it. We'll be coming down and seeing her though.
We'll check back in a few months and see how you're doing.
You told us you thought you were prepared, and then it was that moment hit, and it was the waterworks, right? And
it absolutely was, yeah. So
when's the last time you cried like that?
I was trying to think. Honestly, I think probably when my dad passed away 10 years ago. You don't get those feelings really very often, and I can remember this moment, or I guess, she was my firstborn, and I remember when she entered this earth, and the excitement and joy and the emotion you feel then, and that doesn't feel like that long from 18 years, and now you're kind of, pushing her off, and she's on her own at this point, and she'll be coming home in the summers, but it definitely is different just in 2 days.
We got to change the subject because that's a girl dad. I'm getting emotional thinking about that. I do want one more thing on the family side. When I think about, you tell all these great stories about your dad, and for whatever reason, when I think of your dad, I think of the Skull, Chevy, and Browning song, right? Of just just this solid man. Give us maybe a lesson or two from your dad that you would want to share with the guys listening.
He was tough love. I think one of the things Flanagan could probably, he's one of our brothers in F3 could tell this story too. But we gotten in trouble in high school. Maybe made some decisions that weren't so awesome. Maybe spent the night at a girlfriend's house and got stuck there with Squints and Flanagan. And we were supposed to be at baseball practice that morning, and we had told all of our parents that we were at each other's houses. And we got busted like you should. Yeah. And I got I feel like I got the most reprimanded, if you will. My punishment was probably the strongest. And so my buddies, all of their punishments were served, and I was still in trouble. And I remember we had a baseball fundraiser, and I ended up having my friends come over. And my dad's like, "You're still grounded. Why are your friends here?" And Squints, OG Squints, Barty's brother, and my dad. I thought they were gonna go to blows. My dad was definitely a disciplinarian, and one of his messages was that I might not be your friend, but you're gonna respect me. And so. He always was definitely drew a strong line of discipline in the house, and I definitely appreciate all the discipline that he had given to us. I think we talked about Skull, Chevy, and Browning. He was a Chevy owner, and he had a Browning Auto 5 shotgun. I don't know that he chewed a whole lot, but he could definitely handle a few beers of his own. So he's got some Morgan Wallen vibes, but discipline was definitely one of his. And I appreciate all of that.
You told a story, I think it was yesterday, about how he gave you that Browning.
Yes, sir.
Sort of like a rite of passage. I thought that was really cool moment.
So my dad was a big hunter fisherman growing up. He was an archer, and one of the things we loved to do together was pheasant hunt. And as a youth, kind of gaining his trust. Initially, you had to shoot a single shot 12-gauge shotgun until he felt like you could handle the gun well enough. and then you could graduate to a semi-automatic
Mm.
12 gauge where you could load multiple shells in it. And once he had felt I had graduated to that point, and it was about 12 or 13 years old, he gave me his Browning Auto 5 shotgun. And I mean, to me, I don't think any other gun in the world shot more pheasants. That guy was a legend. He was a great shooter. And just, and at 12 years old, you know, he was a few years older than I am, but he could outwalk me and out hustle me in a pheasant hunting day every single day. Just worked hard. He did it the right way. And, yeah, there was no better feeling for me than to kind of earn his respect, to get that gun passed down to me. That's the gun I still shoot today, an old school Browning Auto 5.
Now they'll let anybody buy an AR these days.
Or what you think is an AR.
I'll just say, you're not shooting pheasants with an AR. Like,
Oh, that's a different podcast. All right. So, man, I love it. I think it's so cool just hearing, because we have this responsibility as fathers, right? And so just hearing stories of like the guy that led you throughout your youth into the man you are today, right? Is a guy I'd love to learn from, because you're doing a lot of it right.
Are you or someone you know in the market to buy a new home? Well, if so, check out Major Team Mortgage. They specialize in home purchase and refinance home loans. Their mission is to purposely empower people to experience their good life through building wealth with real estate. You know, showing up in the gloom is no different than showing up for a conversation around your future of building wealth with real estate. Join the action economy and get in the game with Sasquatch. Text or call John at 402-212-0149 to schedule a time today. Individual NMLS number 1393750. Company NMLS number 2478164. Equal housing lender.
The faith piece is kind of what I'd like to get into. So, and you mentioned the kind of pieces of this, but back up a little bit and tell us what was faith like growing up, and then where you at today was sort of your faith journey.
yeah, so born and raised Catholic. I talked about my family. So my grandparents, you know, they have 15 kids, and they were always bringing the kids to church as young kids, like I said. And my parents was of one of six, and you know, I don't remember. It wasn't like we missed church very often, but not very many days. You know, I always thought that you'd go on vacation, and that was the time that you could take a break from going to mass. And I have cousins that it always kind of irked me that my parents we were going to mass, and they were taking us and all of my siblings. And I had a few cousins they were a little older than us, and probably could make their own decisions. But we would go down to the Lake of the Ozarks almost every weekend. And my cousins would get away from going to mass by telling us that they're going to Our Lady of the Sheets. Staying in bed. And we would always, you know, even on vacation, wherever we were at, we'd find a Catholic church. And so super strong Catholic from the get-go. And I really don't feel like my faith journey really dipped away from that really at all. I would say maybe a little bit when I was in college. I probably wasn't as active, but it wasn't like I would go months at a time, you know, maybe have a little too much fun in college and figure out that, you know, Sunday wasn't the best day for me to get up in time to get to a mass and so miss some. But I would say right now, definitely an every day or every Sunday attendee of church for sure. And it's important to me. You know, I have so many things to be thankful for and to share with the Lord that I appreciate all these blessings. That I just 1 hour a day on a Sunday is not too much. You know, Blake, you've gotten me into the Lectio Divina. I've started to practice that, and I've really enjoyed that. As far as my faith journey, you know, what I enjoy about the F3 is not everybody's Catholic, not everybody kind of believes the same things that I do, but I feel like I can get a little bit of each guy's F3's faith journey and kind of apply it in my own life. You know, I enjoy hearing kind of how other people are experiencing their faith, and it challenges me to maybe experience something a little different myself.
Yeah.
How you touched on a little bit from the story the other day, but talk a little bit about, because I know that you were apprehensive to do a Bible study, you know, when you heard about it at first, and didn't go in right away. But I know how meaningful that whole book study that we do is to all of us. So what would you say to guys, or just what was that decision making process like for you to go from I don't think I want to do this, even though you have a really strong
Mhm.
background of faith from the time that you were a kid? What was that decision making process like, and then how has that had an impact on your faith? And what would you say to guys? A lot of questions there.
Yeah. No, I think for me, I don't have it all figured out faith wise. Like I'm still learning, and I think part of my concern, like initially, was called we were calling it a Bible study, and I was like, well, am I gonna be able to contribute? Like, what are they gonna think about? If I don't have the answer, and I think that was the best part about it is once I committed to it, once I started showing up and kind of being engaged with the group, it was just an amazing feeling to see and learn from the other guys. I shared my experiences and shared kind of what I know and what my faith journey has been. But seeing how all the other guys share their faith journey just allows you to feel more welcomed and I would tell anybody that would consider this idea of a Bible study. I think we're now calling it a book study just to keep people from being intimidated, because I think that was me, right? I was like, I think I passed on it for a while because I was like, I'm not doing a Bible study, and I think we call it a Bible study initially, and now it's just a book study, and I really enjoy it. We've been doing it on Monday mornings, and can't think of a better way to kickstart your Monday morning. And sometimes, we stick with the book and the topic, and sometimes we get off and go to a whole nother area, and I really appreciate the guys' vulnerability and sharing their journeys with me, because it allows me to investigate and further my faith.
Mm.
If you're considering it or even thought about it, I would lean in, guys, because it absolutely will pay itself for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say, I mean, Q Source, right? I mean, it, is an F3 book, but I think we're trying to recreate that a little bit, but we're a little bit more specific on, hey, we're going to do this, content, right? We've all agreed on that. I think the other thing, and I know you've called this out several times, but we've got, guys as young as 39 and all the way up to as old as 60, and so I think the range and the different experiences, we've got, guys that didn't grow up in the US, and so I think it's been really cool to just hear all the different perspectives there. What, as you think about kind of this, so the goal, right, of F3, right, we use fitness, fellowship, and faith to invigorate male community leadership. And I think you mentioned this a little bit, but like, I would love to hear, like, if you remember your VQ, or even just, being a part of the CSOP or launching your own site, what do you feel like you've learned about leadership throughout?
I mean, I feel like they totally invigorate. There's something about this group that, I remember my VQ pulling up and definitely, some nervous energy, and like, I have this thing all planned, right? And now thinking about that, like the design of that workout seems pretty silly. I should run it back one time.
Where'd you do your VQ?
And adjust it at Oracle.
Okay.
So shout out, hey, you got me on the IQ schedule there fairly early on. I can't remember exactly. I started in early February, and I think it was in my VQ maybe in April, if I remember right. I can't remember exactly, but I didn't know back then that, Tater kind of showed up to all those things, and I was like, man, Tater showed up. This is sweet. Yeah. And then you see all the guys that are showing up, and you're overwhelmed, and you can't help but be invigorated, right? Like, they instill confidence in you, right? Like I said, I've talked about this in COTs and mentioned it earlier. I definitely felt like I would never lead a workout when I first started. Like, there's no way I'm not doing that. Like, that's just not my personality, for sure. And this group has allowed, by them being open and vulnerable, has allowed me to just kind of exponentially become the same way, I hope, and share myself with other guys, and hopefully invigorate other people. So,
what was that like launching in Valley, or your own neighborhood? Like, did you feel a lot of pressure, or how did that go?
There was some pressure initially, because you're still like, you have this thing planned, and I had enough established relationships with guys. I was like, well, I'm not going to be out there by myself, I don't think. And I am still pretty proud of the fact that the week we launched, the following week, I had an arrangement. We went to the Masters, and so I wasn't there that week, but every other week consecutively until I passed the flag, I was there. And I pre-run every single week, and I didn't have a week where I didn't have somebody at least doing something pre with me. So I wasn't ever by myself. And so, man, you're nervous because you're not sure if guys are going to show up, and they show up. And so I'm definitely super, super proud of what what we got going on Valley, and it's what F3 is meant to be, right? Keep giving this thing away, and if I just did my little part, I'm super proud.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's really reflective of your leadership too. You said guys will show up, and I think it's because of what we talked about earlier, the relationships that you had made prior to that, the connections that you have, the ability to do that. Like, guys just want to show up and support when you've done it to other people. I think that's one of your biggest strengths that I admire about you, for sure.
What so tell us about succession planning, Man Street Dance. What was that process?
I had a couple guys in mind, but Street Dance was one of the guys that was just super, super consistent there every single week. And I had mentioned it a little bit, and he just kept leaning in. Definitely saw some parallels of his F3 journey with mine. It was kind of funny the way he joined F3. We were kind of getting after it one afternoon on the lake, and he's in the water, and he's like asking about it because of West Nile. Him and him have a connection through family, and he showed up that first beat down, and he hasn't turned away since. And but to me, it wasn't super, super hard initially. I was worried about if he would be able to handle coffee and go into that because his work commitments, and so maybe I'd suggested to him, do you want this to be a dual thing? And he was like, absolutely not, that's fine. And I think he's made arrangements or something, because not only does he handle the site key responsibilities, but he's handling coffee and just running that thing perfectly, in my opinion, and taking it to a whole level. And, back to, you guys are asking about launching a new site, as far as building that community, Street Dance is totally, tied in with the community. My children don't go to school out there, so I had my daughters were at Marion and St. Wenceslaus, so we didn't have a real direct connection with the community. Knew the guys in the neighborhood, and that's kind of how I started. Got some of those guys, and then Street Dance has just accelerated that thing. That I was super proud that if you look on PaxNet, 22 guys out there. It seems like every week things are good, and it allowed us to launch a second site. There's no better feeling to pass something off and feel so confident that you got the right guy, and him totally lean into it and just take it to the next. Like, I couldn't be prouder. It's just awesome.
Talk about your post passing of the flag, as far as because I remember when I passed the flag to Dinger, after expanding into Bennington, I was like, I didn't want to micromanage a little bit, but I still wanted to be around to make sure he didn't mess it up. And obviously he hasn't, and he's done a great job. That's part of the way you pick the right guy, right? But what did you feel like? Did you feel like you needed to still be there every week? Did you feel like the chains were released and now you can actually go out to somewhere else on a Wednesday? And then talk about how, moving forward in your leadership journey, about how now you're, the weasel shaker, and he, despite my best efforts to get you on the first F team, just because I wanted to work with you, that I think it was more appropriate that you fill that role just because of the connections and the way that you get around and the way that you really have a pulse of the packs throughout all of F3 Omaha.
Yeah, I don't know that I felt super need to stay connected there. I definitely didn't want him to feel, and still don't want him to feel like he's out there on the island on his own. But let me tell you can handle it on his own. Initially, I feel like I did post there a few of the weeks, right after the flag pass. But then, I did launch a site on Wednesdays in Valley. One of my favorite sites is Paradise. So, I quickly went back out to Paradise. And then it's funny how it works. The guys that have Wednesday sites are knocking on the door for a queue. And so quickly you have queues that start to fill up, and then we've had flag pass season, and I actually was talking with preteens about it today, and it's like, I feel like I'm missing home right now that I haven't been to Beacon in a while, but you know what, he's got it totally under control, totally handled. There is nothing that he needs, I don't think. And every time I check with him, he's like, I think I'm doing it right. You tell me if I'm not, and like I'm like, you're doing it better, man. So I feel like it's in great hands. So.
I love it. It's super cool, right? Because and you've been saying this the whole time, but you try to give away what you've received, and then you see these other guys get unlocked and start giving away what they've received, and just this like this movement, right? That is F3, and it's just so cool to be able to empower guys to do that. I would be curious. We've covered a lot, and I love you as a man. I love just hearing your story. I love the way you lead. I am curious if there's anything we didn't cover that you feel like want to get off your chest or want to share with guys. Any advice or just experiences, things that guys got to get out there and try? Anything on that list for you?
I think we covered a lot of it. I think, I just want to maybe just give a shout out to you too. So we've formed this Field Doc, formalize it now. And you watch some of these Gloom podcasts, and for me, I always wonder, like, what does that look like? What does it feel like? How do you engage into something like that? And for us, I feel like it's just naturally happened, right? Yeah. Like we are posting together or doing a lot of the pre-stuff together, and we've been in the Bible study together. And so, like, guys, if you feel a connection with guys that you're posting with often and it just feels right, like, formalize that Shield Doc, because I feel like it takes things to a whole nother level. For me, I think even when we started, I think Stripe's like, hey guys, this feels like a Shield Doc, and I'm like, I think it does too. I don't know if that's what we're supposed to call it. And then I started to question myself, and it's like, don't question it, right? Yeah. Like, if it is what it is, right? And so lean into that even further, and if you're not at that point yet, lean into F3 a little bit further, because whatever you give it, it will give back to you 10,000 times, no doubt. So I think
I would say too, and one of the things as I was transitioning from West Sector Q to civilian packs, I was asking wait time, like what's key, right, in this transition, and Shield Lock was the top thing, right? And so I think as we see site queues hand off flags and then sort of fade into the abyss, I think Shield Locks are really something we just need to continue to promote. And it's okay if you're in a Shield Lock for a season and you get out of it and start a new one, but just get to that level where where the conversation is, how's your relationship with your wife? How are things at home? How's that thing you were working on not doing, right? Because I think as we've gotten to that level, it's really helped me stay engaged, right? Where, and not that I will ever be disengaged from F3, but there have been times, right, where I'm sort of like, well, they don't need me anymore. I don't have a role anymore. Nobody needs PowerPoint slides, and so I think just you eliminate all of that, right, when you form the Shield Lock, because you're like, well, I'm showing up for these guys, right? And so I think would just echo, it's been really, really awesome just to grow deeper in our relationship. So, man, this has been great.
But of all the episodes I've seen, I've always wanted to do like a rapid fire type question. You remember, like back in the days for Sports Center, you won't remember. You're too young, but it was the Budweiser hot seat. Okay. Remember that? So like, let's do that. Well, eventually we'll get a sponsor. Maybe someday it'll be the Stripes Finder hot seat. But let's do some quick rapid fire questions I got here. Like 10 to 15-second answers. Okay, so just really quick.
I feel like we talked about this earlier today. I feel like I don't stay quiet.
If you don't know Stripes, he is a man of first.
Right. So here we go. All right, rapid fire. Site you've never been to but you want to go.
The farm.
The farm. Okay. Most memorable queue aside from your BQ or any flag passes or launches.
Some memorable queue. You said aside from...
It can't be flag pass or a launch.
Okay, I was going to say the
or
launch.
BQ.
The launch was pretty amazing. I can't think of one specific one, but I always like Plague's COT is always the joke is always I'll come for your COT. I don't like going to the beatdown because it usually wears me out. So I'm gonna give shout out to Plague just for COTs.
We might come back to that one.
Yeah.
F3 guy that you don't really hang out with outside of or don't really know that well that you like to get a deeper relationship with.
Any guy that I don't know that well that I like to get a deeper relationship. You know, I know Farva pretty well, but I'd love to dig in deeper with Farva. We have some connections, but he's an amazing dude.
Is there an F3 name that you'd want to name somebody?
We've talked about some. I don't even know if they're good for the airtime. So.
Astroglide.
Okay, how about this? And if you could change your F3 name to anything, what would it be?
You know what? It's funny. Like guys get mad about their names, and I'm okay with Speed Bump.
Yeah, it fits you well.
You know what? There's worse, that's for sure.
Yeah. All right, last one. The F3 hammer that you see on the queue schedule, and you know he's gonna put one on you, and you maybe might want to just avoid it.
Well, I just said Plague, and I know I hate his beatdowns. Like the other day, we did T Merkins to bear crawls, T Merkins to bear crawls to T Merkins. Like, what are you trying to do, killer? You know, like stuff like
a lot
that.
of people
just,
avoid Plague.
Just silly.
Like to play.
Shout out Laser J. Laser J will absolutely pound you. So,
dude, do you remember the burpees and alarm clock?
Yeah.
Or the alarm clock thing at Badger with Laser?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'll give Laser J a shout out. He will absolutely put it on you. So that's a if I don't go to enough of your beatdowns, Lasers, because he kicked my butt, man.
All right, you're off the hot seat.
I love it. Well, hey, Stripes is a man of first, yeah, and we just love getting to hear guys' stories and honored to be able to share. And I love the rapid fire. That's funny. Let's go to the farm then someday.
Yeah,
right. No, we've had a few. You know, we talking about clown cars. Right? We've had a few lined up and just hasn't happened. But we'll get down there. Yeah, the farm is definitely one on my list.
Awesome. Well, we'll do a little name-o. I'll start us off. We'll have it in with you. So Brandon Flehardy, 39, the Plague.
The Plague. TJ Butler, 46, Stripes.
Great
hey,
call.
You got that call right, buddy. Eric Amani, 45, Speed Bump.
Speed Bump. Nice job, brother.